Welcome, everyone, to another installment of Fail Forward Friday. My name is Malesela, and I'm with
Roche Mamabolo.
Dr. Roche Mamabolo, for all of those that don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, this is another installment. As we say, this is Fail Forward Friday. The whole point of this is that I come up with a story, Doc comes up with a story of entrepreneurs or businesses that have, we would like to say, failed forward. Some have failed forward and some haven't.
Yes.
And the whole point is that we come out of this learning a lot more than when we started this whole journey. So, yes, a lot of you guys have been giving us suggestions of who to speak about, and this week is actually going to be quite interesting. Doc?
Yeah. Actually, I got this recommendation from a young lady, Shama from Botswana. She was like, "I want to know about the one that I'm going to talk about."
Yes.
So, Shama, this is to you. So should I jump in?
Let's jump in, Doc.
Yeah. Shama, after having watched one of the episodes, she's like, "I would like to know about Khanyi Dhlomo's story and Destiny Mag." And I thought that was quite, an important story to share. And I did some digging. But I've been following her story for quite a while. But then, in preparation for this show, I did some digging. And so here's what I found. Khanyi is a journalist, right, by profession. She was a journalist for True Love magazine back, I think, in the 2000s. And she was ahead of her game. I mean, she was an overachiever. When she was working for True Love magazine, she also became the editor of True Love magazine at the age of 22 years, which is quite amazing, And not only did she, because there are people who make the position, and that's it, but she performed in the position because she was able to position True Love magazine as one of the most leading magazines in the country.
Yes.
Quite popular, very popular with ladies as well. And so, she was performing miracles, in a profession. And then later on, and I think with any person who's growing in their career, she decides she wants to do an MBA, and she gets into Harvard Business School, which by itself, that also is not an easy thing.
That's hectic.
Right? So she gets into Harvard Business School, she does her MBA, trailblazing, and then she comes back and then she starts Ndalo Media, which is a publishing business focusing under the Ndalo Media umbrella. There is Destiny Magazine, there's Destiny Mag, and there's also Sawubona, the inflight magazine for SAA. And I'm sure there were others, I can't remember, but these are the three ones that I know and that I've at some point bought,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I think at the time, 2007, 8, 9, it was at the time where magazines was a big business. The magazine business was big. A lot of people, that's how they consumed content.
Yes.
Right? And Destiny Mag, why not? I mean, focusing mostly on the black people, because at the time there was also this negative reporting about corruption and black people and corruption and all that. So she was trying to also share the other side of the narrative, to say, there are very well doing black people, business people, professionals, and she was profiling that. And she's got this sophisticated storytelling skills or ability combined with lifestyle, right? And that's why people bought the magazine. And I think the reason why I would know this, or I was passionate about this, or I also bought magazines is, I mean, I also, when I was at high school, I was a little journalist because I was a contributor to the local high school newspaper, right? So this writing thing goes way back. Yes. So publishing, I'm blogging now. It's sort of like a continuation, but publishing has always been something that
you really liked.
That I liked. When we went to varsity, it's the same thing. we bought a lot of magazines. I would say before the cell phones, but I think cell phones were coming in. But the cell phones that were there, they were not your smartphones. It was those Alcatel and those breaks ones, right? So smartphones were not there. So if you wanted information, the best place to find information was, well, at the internet, but internet was not, you needed to go to an internet cafe, right? You couldn't access it on your smartphone. So the best information you could get was you either wait for the Sunday newspaper or there's a magazine, right? Sunday newspapers did very little profiling. Magazines were doing very well in terms of lifestyle profiling of people and their stories and their achievements. So Destiny Mag at the time was one of the leading lifestyle magazines out there. Then Destiny Man as well, as a guy, it was competing with your GQ and all this other Men's Health and whatever. So it did very well. It pulled out and it was doing very well, employing people, publishing regularly on a monthly basis, and then winning awards. At some point, it was winning awards as some of the best magazines that you can find. So it was doing very well. A product that was in demand, and it was a good product as well. So what then happened, I think towards the so if you look at spend, advertising spend, because this is how magazines make money. So you put all this paper together, you put interesting stories, and then how you make money from that is people come in and advertise on your platform. Because the thinking is there's an interesting story, it will attract readers, people will buy, and as they're going through the stories, they'll also get to see your adverts. So you sell adverts on that platform. So that was the main generator of revenue. And then, of course, you'll also have monthly subscriptions. So people say, I like this magazine, I'm going to subscribe. And as Ndalo Media, you then get monthly subscriptions over and above advertising spend, people advertising on your platform, but over and above sales of people buying your magazine at the shop, right? So those would typically be your three revenue streams: monthly subscription, advertising income, and sales. And advertising would come from corporates, government, and because the goal is you need to sell this product to people and people consume the information, because we want the information, people consume the information, and in the process of consuming the information, they'll see the advert. So here's an interesting thing. So the internet, right, was a platform for information and to disseminate information. That's how the platform, the whole www thing was conceptualized for. And then someone then decided, how do we make money out of this, right? Let's put adverts on the internet. The same with TV, right? TV was programs, and then they said, how do we make money out of this? Let's put adverts. So the whole drive is we attract people's attention, and while we have their attention, let's sell to them. Right? So in this area, Ndalo Media was making money from people's attention on the magazines. But now come the internet. The internet started taking off in a big way in the 2008, 2009, 2010. And this is where now data costs are going down, smartphones are now taking over. There is BBM and BlackBerry and all these kind of things. And now people are starting to get used to consuming data online, right? Instead of physical, right? Blogging starts to take over, right? This is even before podcasting. We never thought there would be this type of a platform. So what then started happening is Ndalo Media sales started to tank because there's more people consuming information online and not physical, right? And I mean, I was asking you earlier on, when was the last time you bought a magazine? I can't remember when was the last time I bought a magazine.
I also can't remember.
I can't remember the last time I bought a newspaper, for instance, Because news breaks so fast.
Yes.
By the time the Sunday paper comes, it's old news.
Yes, that's
Something
true.
that breaks out on Monday, Tuesday, by the time you get to Sunday Times on Sunday, it's old news. The story has evolved so many times that by the time I buy a newspaper, there's actually fresh news that came that Sunday morning.
That's true.
That's
That's
not
true.
covered in the newspaper. So slowly you then get to see print media struggling.
Yeah.
Right? And as it's struggling, Ndalo Media is not evolving in time to embrace the online platform. And then what then happened, people's attention moved from physical paper publishing documents to online publishing.
Yeah, my question is, Doc, in this happening, obviously, and this is obviously, and we've spoke about this as well with like the Starterford's episode as well. You can clearly see that sales are going down, right? What are you and I'm just thinking out loud, but what are you thinking as a CEO, as a founder, as an MD of a media company when everything is, you're seeing things happening?
So the thing with entrepreneurs is we have this obsession about we are optimistic, right? By nature, this thing will work out.
Yeah.
This thing will work out. And sometimes when the reality strikes, I always say entrepreneurs live in cloud nine most of the time.
Yes.
You live in, because you need to believe that this will work
Yes.
before anyone else believes it will work,
Yes.
right? You need to be the one who believes in this so that you are able to convince others to believe in it
Yes.
too. So if you don't believe it, if you are doubtful that this thing will work, why should other people join you, work for you, or invest in you? So when these trends are coming up, and I think it's a theme that's coming up as we do more of these episodes.
Yeah.
The theme is, and I've been thinking about this quite a lot. The theme is, if you persist enough, right? If you're at the bottom and you persist enough and you follow the trends, you can actually be number one. There is no guarantee that you'll be number one forever.
100%.
Right? Because trends are always changing.
100%.
Right? Ndalo Media won awards at some point. It was doing very well. And at some point, the trends, the landscape changed. And those that used to be at the top, because they did not evolve, had to unfortunately find themselves at the bottom.
Sure.
So I think there was a mistake that was made in terms of not understanding or analyzing the trends. So which I think as an entrepreneur should do is maybe once a month or, spend some time away from the business and just understanding what the landscape
It's doing.
looks
Yeah.
like and where it's going, right? Don't go to the office. Don't code. Don't do anything. Just go out there and ask yourself, where is this industry going? I'll give you an example, right? So I'm in the education space. So we run classes, physical classes, blah, blah, blah. And somebody comes to me and says, in 10 years' time, information, what you are teaching will be online.
Not even 10 years, but
Yeah, which is what I think I've shared this with you before, that, the TED event that I was attending, the guy starts his talk by saying, this was like an attention-grabbing headline
yes.
opener, right? He says, this is the last, our grandkids will be the last generation to read and write. Our grandkids will be the last generation to read and write.
You know what's catching me just on that statement before you continue, Doc? Writing, I can see. Reading, how?
Because, okay, so he gives this as an example. So this is so crazy. So he puts a picture, at the beach with lots and lots of colorful umbrellas. And he says, what do you see? Interpret what you see, right? You see, it's easy for you to interpret. There's no writing. It's just the picture with the umbrellas.
True.
You are able to quickly interpret what you see. Then he takes the picture where he says, then there's a whole paragraph written describing the beach, colorful umbrellas, right? And then he says, describe what you just read. Firstly, you're going to spend a couple of minutes reading, right? Right? understanding, and then interpreting. With a picture, you just see the picture within seconds, you are able to interpret.
Sure.
Right? Now, he then says, take it a step further. There's audio.
Yes.
So you see the picture, you see the waves and everything,
Yes.
and there's an audio that's explaining what's out there.
Yes.
You catch it instantly.
That's true. It's like an audiobook, right?
It's like an audiobook, right? So his message is we are slowly moving away from, I mean, if you look at AI and what it does now with this whole, the fact that it's able to generate content so quickly, right? There won't be a need for you to write extensively. But he's also saying that people today, how they consume information. Back then, during the Ndalo Media era, we consumed information by reading because there was no other options. So we had to buy, read, understand.
Yes.
But as time went by, there's YouTube, right?
Yes.
I don't have to read. I can just click on a YouTube and it explains to me
100%.
what's happening, right? So there's this trend. I mean, I blog, right? And I look at what I blog and the readership, and I look at if I were to convert this article into a YouTube channel, into a YouTube content,
What's going to happen?
what's going to happen? And there's a greater chance that the YouTube content will be far more consumed than the blog, right?
And it actually speaks, I guess, to the instant generation that we are in. Because, as you said, picture is instant, right? Writing is not instant. Writing requires effort. Writing requires understanding, as you said. Writing requires, there's so many things that writing requires. But video, picture, audio, you hear and it's instant.
And you can see.
You know what I mean? And you already understand.
Yeah.
You hear, but you understand by the tone of the person. But you see, I get what you mean.
So you are then able to process as much information as possible through seeing and hearing than having to read.
But Doc, does that mean, and maybe we're moving, I guess, a bit away, and obviously we'll get back to the point. Yeah. Does that mean that, and I think I almost think of it as a pipe. So you have a pipe of water, and this pipe, the pressure is normal pressure that it's going. And then there's a whole lot, there's an influx of water. Maybe the dams are overflowing. And this pipe is under strain because there's more pressure that this water all wants to go down. And you like the amount of water that's going through, you can't even, let's say there's fish in that pipe. You can't even catch because of the speed at which you're getting it. And it's the same with information. The speed at which we're getting information is almost becoming redundant as soon as you listen to it or as soon as you see it. Because now you don't have time to actually, and that's maybe what instant gratification doesn't give you, right? Is that it doesn't give you enough time to understand how you feel. Exactly, process how you feel about it and how your understanding of it is. Because you can explain something to me and I interpret it in a different way, but your intentions wasn't for me to interpret it in that way because of the speed at which it came. I now interpret it in a different way.
So I was listening to this podcasts, for instance, right? Another platform where people consume information, right? They don't have to wait to read the magazine or read a newspaper.
Yes.
It's instant. Something breaks out now, we talk about it. I record it on my phone, throw it on my thing. People watch, they get to see it. News break in the morning, in the evening, people are already publishing their thing. Now, I was listening to a podcast by Elon Musk, and they talk about, so they ask him, is he still reading, because he's a reader, is he still reading physical books or audiobooks, right? And he says, I used to read physical books, but now I'm into audiobooks, right? Now, they said, okay, the speed that you listen to an audiobook. So I listen at 1.25.
That's me.
That's me. And he says, no, I'm listening at 1.5. Like, what? 1.5? I mean, it's like, it's moving very fast, right? And he's consuming content at that speed.
Yes.
Right? So you're talking about the pipe so it's now a question of who can comprehend and process information as quickly as possible.
Yes.
So now think about it. So this is where we are. print media is gone, finished. We're no longer talking about it.
Yeah.
Right? And now in the education space, he talks about how you're gonna teach with 3D, with virtual reality and type of a thing.
Yes.
You know, how to unpack a steam engine. You're not gonna be writing manual. They're gonna be
Yes,
holograms.
Yes.
Physically dismantling a steam engine, right? And I think it's faster, it's quicker, they understand easier because they see they do.
Yes.
Unlike they have to read a manual and you have to now come and test them on the manual.
Yes.
Right? So it changes everything. And Ndalo Media stood no chance. Once technology started taking over, I mean, you can imagine right now, newspapers are struggling. Newspapers, right? Things that are published every week. Something that's published once a month, a magazine, stands no chance. By the time you publish it, it's old news. You can't say, I'm going to interview CEO of ESCOM and I'm going to publish it at the end of the month.
Next.
It's not going to work. He's going to be invited to a podcast and this.
So you're basically running against time. And the thing is, the whole thing that you're doing is that you're running against the mind of someone else. Right? Well, you're not running against, but you're running to.
Yeah.
So the podcast, because it's quicker, it's faster, it's here, I would rather listen to that. I don't need to go read or see what he did afterwards, but I already see it.
Yeah.
That's actually scary, dog.
It's
you
scary.
know what the craziest part is? And now I was just thinking about how there's a gap in lifestyle as well, because that Bona and True Love, they fitted not only from a drama point of view, but actually from a what lifestyle, how people live. Instagram is there.
Is there.
Like
Social media is there.
Social media is there for everything that they did there. I can see that Black Coffee bought a Rolls
Live
Royce.
as
Yesterday I was watching it on
Yeah.
Instagram. He bought a Rolls Royce that has Black Coffee on there.
Yeah.
Someone would have interviewed him, taken a picture of the Rolls Royce. What he showed us.
Yeah. And you get to experience these things, some of them as they do them live.
Yeah.
Live, Insta and whatever.
You know.
So what then happened? You know, print media went on a decline because of the internet. Publishing costs are expensive.
100%.
Right? They don't go down because, you know, they.
Economy
In fact,
of
they
scales.
go up.
Yes.
Ad revenue. She was only relying on ad revenue, not diversified enough. There were no other sources of revenue. There were no events, Destiny events or whatever. It was purely on the publishing, right? And when that went down, the whole business went with it. Of course, then there were salaries that needed to be paid, let alone the printing costs or operational costs, salaries. Because when the whole thing came to an end, it was very personal. It was very emotional.
Yes, obviously.
Because people weren't happy because they were not paid, salaries were not paid. It just gets ugly, which is what happens with any business that's not generating revenue.
Yes.
Right. And the market shifted, and it shifted very quickly, and it was gone. And Ndalo Media was out. You know, heartbreaking because I used to love the product. I used to love the lady as an entrepreneur. I thought she was an epitome of what entrepreneurship was about. But yeah, same lesson comes again, over and over and over again. If you don't adapt, you're going to be... So it's as if you need to... Now we're at a point where you don't even need to adapt. You need to be able to predict where the market is going.
Yes.
So you need to be that good that you know where the next bounce of the ball is going to go.
You know what you're saying now? I was just thinking about that, to say being an entrepreneur now is not as easy as I am just doing a shoe company. You know, you have to think, okay, how can I relate what I'm doing within the shoe industry with anything else? What are the connections that I can jump into without leaping too far forward and missing the mark?
So then it requires you to spend time away from the business. Because when you're in the business, you get lost in the business. You know, you can't separate the woods from the trees. You are in it.
Yes.
But when you spend time away from the business, you are able to pick up these trends. And you're able to say, okay, this is where the wind is blowing. I need to prepare myself there before, right? It's like weather forecasts. So it's like they tell you you're looking for the weather for the week, and they tell you in 2 days' time it's going to be cold, right? You need to be that good to prepare now, right, for that. But I think also the fact that you focused on one revenue stream and not diversified.
True.
But also know your audience. Be customer obsessed about your customers, your audience. Where do this time? People don't spend time on paper; they spend time on screens. Whether it's laptop, phone, watch, whatever, they spend most of their time on screens. What are they looking at there? And there are reports, there are all these research reports that tells you, this is how much time people spend on the screens. And this is where they spend their time doing. So you need to, as an entrepreneur, be able to, take that information and ask yourself, how does it apply to my business? And how does it shape my business? Failure to do that, right?
How's AI going to influence me? Don't be like, I know AI, you'll die.
So in 2014, 15, I launched my book. And in my launch, I said to the lady who was interviewing,
Sorry, Doc. You launched your book.
Yes.
I did not even know you have a book, Doc.
Oh my word. Okay. Yeah. All right. The Startup Revolution, 15 or Stand Out. So.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I want this book.
And this was in 2014, 15, right? And I was saying that there's a revolution that's coming. At that time, I didn't call it Fourth Industrial Revolution, but I called it the connection economy, where we are all going to be connected like we are now. And in that, because I'm now thinking back, in that launch, I said to people were shocked. I'm launching a book, and I said to people, I actually don't think books are the best way to share ideas. Right? And it's like, what do you mean? You just launched a book? Are you crazy?
Counterintuitive.
Right? I'm like, I just don't think it's the best way to share ideas. I think there are other better ways to share ideas, except books. Books, they take long. By the time you publish it, it's only relevant for a couple of years.
That's true. Unless it's a classic.
And it has to be. And those are very...
Exactly. There's not a lot of classics.
Yeah. I'm like... And I was saying that this information in 2 or 3 years' time, it will be old. Because people, when they were reading my book, they were saying, this book is forward-looking. A lot of people won't understand what's in here. But within 2 or 3 years later, the World Economic Forum had as their theme, the Fourth Industrial Revolution is here, which is what I was talking about 3 years before, right? This is what's going on. So you need... I blog every day, right? So as I blog, I'm able to disseminate my ideas on a daily basis to as many people as possible, right? I write a book, but not many people will get access to it. It's a tortoise. A book it moves slow. There are faster modes to disseminate information,
and
right?
you can get disrupted at any time.
At any time, right? Maybe an audio book, maybe, sure.
But even then, Doc, and I'm gonna you're right by saying that, and maybe we have to So and even that, Doc, I think of how you bring out an idea on a certain book, let's say, and you launch it, or even if it's a magazine, you launch it. As we were just saying it now, you launch it maybe in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, once a month, right? You launch whatever it is, or you say that idea. Already 10 people have already said it on a podcast, on a blog, on social media, somewhere. And when people see yours, it's almost like, oh, okay. Yeah. We just looked, I've already seen what's happening there.
Yeah. So it's sort of like the life cycle of information. Like it goes up, and then at some point it plateaus. But that cycle happens so quick.
Yes.
Right? It happens so quick. So now you can imagine if you're running a business and you don't understand the life cycle of your products. Because the life cycle of products, with this information age, they end so quickly. So just in conclusion, so how do you then keep your business operating for long? So the strategy has always been, for instance, let's use my least favorite, SAB, right? So let's use SAB. So SAB will introduce Lion, for instance, as a product. Lion as a product is got a life cycle.
Yes.
Right? And you need to be able to predict that life cycle.
Yes.
To say it's going to start this year, in 2 years' time, it will be at the peak. Thereafter, it's going to go down.
Yes.
And then, so it goes up. Before plateaus and
already
goes
got
down,
something else
you
coming out.
introduce something else. It's a
Yes.
S curve. So it's as
Yes.
if you introduce another product, it goes up. Before it plateaus, you introduce another one. So you have multiple S curves, right? And the more multiple S curves you have, the life cycle of the business overall is prolonged.
No wonder, and that's exactly what's happening with everything these days.
Yeah.
And think of a car. BMW won't release 2 cars in 1 year because they if they release all of
Yeah.
those new cars in 1 year, what ends up happening? All of them go down at the same
At
time.
the same time.
It's the new X3 is out now, and then next year they'll receive. So they have a 5 year span, and I think they change. BMW changes every 7 years. They bring out a new model of that same thing. So the new X3 is out, but by the time the new X3 again comes out, they've already released the new X1, the new 3 Series, the new each year after that. Phones are exactly the same every year. The life cycle just does this so that it keeps us saying, "Oh, I want the latest. I want the latest." There's Apple bring out the same phone every single year, and we just say, "Oh, it's faster," but you can't even see that it's faster.
We'll talk about that some other time. Where this whole concept comes from. It's called perceived obsolescence. What you have, you think it's obsolete, even though it's working very well, because there's a new product coming
Yes.
in, and the more you follow the S curve, the longer the lifespan of BMW is. If they stop releasing products, they start to tank,
Yes.
which is what I wish Ndalo Media had done. Right, introduce multiple S curves in their business. Some of them will obviously not work. Some of them will work, and those that work, they keep the lifespan of Ndalo Media going.
Okay.
All right, that's me.
I felt like that's a whole episode in itself. That's it. We could drill down so much
Yes,
in that
there's still
one
more.
thing, especially in South African context, right? But anyway, let me move on to my story. So I'm talking about Edwin Land. So Edwin Land, and many people probably don't know Edwin Land. He's probably the one of the most famous, non-famous people that is out there. He is the mentor, or he is what people look. He is who Steve Jobs is to us, but in a sense where Steve Jobs a lot of founders looked up to this man, Edward Land. So he's the founder of Polaroid. Polaroid, for those that don't know, and for those youngins, it was when instant camera came out, where you take a picture and the actual camera comes out. That's
Photo.
The actual photo comes out. That's what he started it.
And then you do it like this.
He did like he did like that.
Yeah.
Now back then, when that before that happened, you obviously had the film.
Yes.
You have to then go get it developed, and over 2 weeks, a week, it then comes out. They give you the pictures, and he was able to find a way to manipulate light onto a piece of paper film. And that film then comes out same time, and obviously after a minute or 2 or 5, then it comes out as a clear picture. And when that started, I mean, this was in the 40s, right after World War II, around 1947, 48, right about there, and came up with this technology, and it was revolutionary. Obviously, people are coming out of World War, and things are starting to settle down. And here's this new technology, and a lot of people would know that after World War II, a lot of technologies and a lot of things came out of World War II, and that photos was also one of them, and photos that are on film with Edwin Land. So he came up with this concept. He brought it out in 1947, and at its peak in 1980, I think, he then had is it 1980? Yeah, around 1980, it emerged as one of the biggest things. Now, the funniest story, Doc. Right? So I was listening to another podcast as well the other day as I was running, and they mentioned, so it was about Edwin Land himself as I was doing the research and stuff. And they were talking about how, and just like, what's that? Not TikTok, man. What's the other platform? Snapchat, yes. So the founder of Snapchat, his hero is Edwin Land as well. Just like what's his name was just like Steve Jobs as well. Was Edwin Land was his. But it's the craziest thing is how this revolution, how this instant camera thing started working out, is that he started selling it obviously to people that could only afford it. But he knew that for him to sell more, he needed to. He basically turned it into a lifestyle, because the whole thing, the whole the bragging rights was that take a picture now and see yourself now instead of in 2 weeks' time. And that obviously revolutionized a lot of things. And he made it so much so that and at the time it was big, but his whole thing was that I need this to be pocket size. And they say eventually, after years of developing it, I think like 5 years or whatever, they eventually got it to a small enough that it could fit, but it could not fit in a pocket. So what they decided to do is, how they marketed it is that they made a shirt with a bigger pocket so that it could fit in. I was just like, yeah.
Okay.
But in any case, so another one was actually how scandalous it was. So people actually started using, how it got popular is that people started using this as a lot of people that were cheating, a lot of people that wanted instant view of what they were doing within the scandal or whatever. They started using this as a as a tool, and that's actually how it actually gained momentum. And apparently, that's exactly how Snapchat started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people started using Snapchat for that reason, scandalous and everything, sending each other naked pictures and whatever.
Oh, word.
And that led to Snapchat becoming so popular.
Oh, wow.
And people don't know this. This is actually quite interesting. When I heard this, I was like, hey, okay, that's
So,
interesting.
so Edward Len is the guy, because I always wanted to find, there's a guy, and I just Googled it here.
Yeah.
He took his family on a vacation in New Mexico, and his 3-year-old daughter asked,
Yes.
as they were taking pictures, using the
Yes.
in the dark room, asked, but why can't I see the
them
picture now?
Yes.
All right, and then that's
And
where the
he asked
inspiration comes
himself,
from.
Exactly. And he literally asked himself, but why?
Well, yeah.
And then he went and innovated in that. It's actually very interesting, right?
Wow.
So he then, I think so Polaroid was Polaroid, and it was doing very well. And where things started going off was in the mid 80s or 70s, where he eventually stepped down as the founder or as CEO of Polaroid.
So Polaroid, was it the camera itself and how it produced the photos?
Yes, it was. It was the whole instant photo coming out. And the cool thing about him, and he had that patent for a very long time, and that's why it did so well. Which actually makes me think sometimes around patents. Patents are really good as a moat, right? It's one of the best moats you can actually get. But at the same time, it sometimes slows down an industry. Now, luckily, it did not slow down the camera industry, but who knows what could have happened outside of the instant picture if maybe digital pictures could have become faster or whatever, because he knew how to manipulate picture on the actual thing, and that's why they had a monopoly.
So the opposite of that is what Volvo did with the seatbelt.
Yes.
Right, when they came up with a 3-point
Yes.
seatbelt, right? And when they came up with that, they had a choice, because that was their innovation.
Yes.
And they decided, we're not going to patent this thing. We're going to open it up as open source to everybody, because we felt it's important for the safety of people,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
we're not going to, and that's where a lot of cars then adopted the seatbelt thing. And
That's
saved,
interesting. I didn't
saved
know that.
Yeah, they saved quite a lot of life. That's why, and I think what that did is it then cemented Volvo as a safe car.
Yes.
As the leading safe car. They say if you have a wife and she's pregnant, get her a Volvo.
Get a Volvo.
Right? Because it's supposedly, and I think it's been ranking as the safest car.
For a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So what happened in the 1980s, he then stepped down. But what actually happened that he stepped down was that he had a fallout with his founders, or with his partners, with the board rather. And Doug, I know we're talking about looking forward and what the industries are going to be and whatever, right? But it could also go wrong, because this is where it went wrong with him. He started focusing on short films. And think of what TikTok is now, but in the 80s. And he wanted to focus on short films, but what ended up happening is that led the company to going, like, revenue and everything went like down, down, down. He actually broke the company in that sense because he had bet a lot, if not everything, on that part of the company. And eventually he had to leave. Like the board didn't have any
So the
confidence
Steve
in
Jobs, Apple thing,
Yes.
and John Scully.
100%.
Okay.
And then they got rid of him. He retired after that. And that's when the company really started going down.
Tank.
In 2001, it filed for bankruptcy. And obviously, Polaroid is no more in that sense. But just on that, the fact that, and maybe they didn't allow him to fail forward. Maybe the board didn't allow him, just like Steve Jobs in that sense. But at the same time, I think to myself, when I don't blame the board at one thing, and I also blame them at the same time, because him leaving took the vision out of the company.
Yeah.
The person that had all the vision, yes, he was wrong about one vision, but it doesn't mean that he didn't care enough to get back up and move forward.
So you are right and wrong at the same time. So
Yes. Okay.
So let's look at the Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was ousted from his company, right?
Yes.
Because his management style sucked.
Yeah.
Big time. And he accepts that. He accepts that I was a hothead. And then he left. He left and started Next. And
Yes.
I think Pixar.
As well, yes.
Next and Pixar and Next. I'm not so sure what happened to Next.
They bought, Apple bought it when he came back.
Yeah, when he came back. But it was not doing as well as Pixar did.
Yes.
And what he then says is he then had to go into obscurity to learn, right, away from the limelight that Apple was. Because Apple was going very fast.
Yes.
And he was not at that level where he can manage it.
Yes.
At that level, at that growth. Hence why he had to bring a CEO, a seasoned CEO.
Yes.
Right?
The Pepsi.
And the Pepsi guy.
Yeah.
And tell him not if he wants to change the world or continue producing sugar water. And anyway, so the guy came, you are corporate now. Steve Jobs is still a startup mindset.
Yes.
Right? And things were moving too fast and his management style was moving slow. So he had to be fired. But the danger with firing the visionary is you lose that vision.
Yes.
And that's what happened with Apple. They lost the vision. They started coming up with crappy products. And they had to then get rid of Scaly and bring him back.
Yes.
Right? Because he was the vision bearer. So yes, you are right in saying that you get rid of the founder, you lose the vision, right? Where there's no vision, people perish.
Yes.
But, I think for me, from where I'm sitting, it's a natural progression. It's supposed to happen that way.
Yes.
Right? The other option would be you let him stay, right? But you pray that you have a huge budget to make mistakes until he lands and comes back. What I was going to actually say was, so the inspiration for Polaroid came from his kid, right? Asking why can't I get the photo now, right? And this is a user. My thinking is, where did the inspiration for the short films come from? Was it driven by the market, or was it driven by him trying to,
that will be interesting to find out.
So because often, if it's not driven by the market, often, it might be that it's not going to work. The market is not ready. So the market may not have been ready for short films in the 80s because people were still enjoying long films, for instance, right? And some innovations, the timing is important because you need to build certain things first before certain things could succeed, right? If you wanted to do Airbnb in the 80s, you were going to fail because the technology was not as advanced, the level of trust was not as advanced. Take, for instance, Checkers 6060, right?
Yes.
If you came up with Checkers 6060 2018, you are going to struggle. You're going to struggle because people were not used to, there was no business case for me to buy. It took COVID, right, for people to say, okay, actually I can do this.
Yes.
I'm forced to. I don't have a choice. I can order my groceries, someone come and deliver it, and I'm safe. I'm not exposed. They can leave it at the door, at the gate. I'm not exposed. So this thing works. And then multiple people try it and it works and it takes off, right? The timing is important, right? And I think sometimes certain things need to happen first before your idea can take off.
So, Doc, I actually, it's true. I do agree with you there. I think it becomes very tricky where, especially COVID helped check us. You know, we don't know if COVID didn't happen, what was going to happen. It helped check us. Eventually it would have come because in America it was happening. And obviously we are like 5-10 years behind anyway. But it actually is very tricky, I guess, to just become an entrepreneur because everything that you start, you're not necessarily sure if the timing is right. There is indicators, though. True. That, yes, I do agree that there is indicators. But, hey, how do you know that?
So the story has always been rather on the side of being too early than being too late.
True.
Because it's going to be very difficult to catch up when you're too late.
True.
Rather be too early, make your mistakes, can the thing, come back again later when the market is right. Because you have If you can, yes, of course. But that's the story of innovation, right? You need to have the budget, the stamina, the resilience, and the time.
Yes.
The timing is important.
Yeah.
And with Polaroid, built a good product, struggled to build the second S.
Yes, that's true.
They had the first S.
Yeah, it's true.
And then to build the second S and the third S, it was a challenge.
Yeah, and they didn't, obviously, I didn't mention everything that made them go down, but a lot of what went down, obviously, was that just the normal things we always see. They didn't pivot quick enough. They didn't learn to pivot. They didn't get ahead of the curve when instant digital pictures were coming out. They were not there, you know. And those are the general things that we see all these companies that fail go through. Is that it's almost like, show me someone that's still living in the past, and I'll tell you he's gonna die. Yeah, like it's just like that. Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but I guess the story of entrepreneurship, if I could interpret it, Doc, is that stay on your feet. Yeah. Stay on your feet, stay learning, because if you don't, you will find yourself on the wrong side of entrepreneurship.
As Steve Jobs has said it, stay hungry, stay foolish.
Yes.
Awesome. That's the pod?
That is the pod, Doc. Again, like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us more stories that you'd like to hear. And yes, it's another installment of Fail Forward Fridays. From my side, Malesela
and Roche Mamabolo. Looking forward to the next session.
Here we go. Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.